Friends, how are you? Welcome to Changing Tracks. Today, Nicola is joining us on our show. Nicola, how are you?
I'm good, Christina. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's go from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from? Were you raised in a Catholic family?
So I come from a place called Moyross in Limerick in Ireland, and growing up there was a lot of drug, alcohol and gangland activity going on, and during that time I didn't have any faith at all because I came from a family that doesn't practice their faith. In Ireland we all know that everyone is baptised Catholic, but not everyone's practicing, so my family are baptised Catholics but none of them practice.
Growing up, what was life like? How was your relationship with your parents?
Yeah, so my relationship with my parents, it was a good relationship, but it wasn't a very affectionate one. And during that time, as I was saying, there was a lot of gangland activity going on, and a few people that I'd known had gotten into that lifestyle, and our area became very dangerous, and we couldn't really go outside or anything like that. And because people that I'd known had gotten into that lifestyle, that had an effect on me. And basically, a good family friend of ours was killed during one of these attacks. And again, with that happening, I started to have a lot of anger and just really wanted to get revenge for them. And really was like, that's all I thought about, is I want to get revenge for that family friend, and they kind of just started to eat away at me. So I started to kind of lash out because I didn't know how to really deal with my emotions at the time. And yeah, so basically going through that and not dealing with these, like grieving that loss, I started to act out in school a lot, and really just got in trouble, didn't really want to be there, and yeah, it was a dangerous place to be, and kind of just not really knowing how to grow up. You kind of have to grow up fast.
How old were you when that happened?
So I was 12 when that happened, and I had just been in, I think, second year in secondary school at the time.
Would you say that had a big influence on you? Did you get into that lifestyle as well?
I did a little bit, yeah, not as deep as a lot of my friends would have had, but really started kind of experiencing with different drugs at the time, and yeah, really kind of just wanting to figure a way out, but that was my way, was trying to like be like everyone else. And yeah, so I'd lash out in school, and one time I actually got kicked out of school, and because things had gotten so bad, my teacher had said, Nicola, we don't want you to come back, like we'll call your parents when we want you to come back. And because things had gotten so bad in my area, our religious community moved in to where I lived, and they were called the Franciscan Friars Renewal. And basically what they would do is they started to run youth groups, and they'd run these every single night, and to try to get the young people off the street. So they'd go around to our houses and they'd say, would your son or daughter like to come to our youth club? And because my family weren't into the faith, they would say thanks but no thanks. And for me, because I wanted to kind of figure a way out, in a sense, because I'd gotten so caught up in that lifestyle and just kind of wanting that revenge, I would see the friars walking every morning before going to school, and they would pray the rosary. And at the time I thought, well, that's a waste of time. Like, that's pointless, they're wasting their time, like nothing's going to come from that. But from them praying that rosary, little things started to change. Like, people weren't as mean or as aggressive when it comes to like the guys in the streets and stuff like that. And I really thought that there was something about those friars that I wanted, that I didn't know what it was.
So, what happened then?
So there's a woman that was getting beat up right on my street outside my house. And in my mind, for some reason, I just remembered those brothers praying. And in that moment, I was like, I can't afford to lose another person in my life, so I'm going to pray. Now, as I said, I didn't grow up with any faith, so I didn't know any kind of sort of prayer. So my prayer in that moment was, God, if you're real, you need to do something right now. And just as I finished saying that prayer, one of those brothers ran out of his house. He pushed his way into the middle of that group of men, and he put his hands over the woman to protect her. And he said, in the name of Jesus, stop. And in that moment, it was like time had froze for me. And he was able to kind of push her barely out of that group of men. And a car drove down the side. And he's pushed her into that car, and she was brought to the hospital. But they were so mad that she had gotten away that they kept punching him and kicking him. And I'm there watching this, and he came out of that with cuts and bruises and broken fingers. And I remember just thinking in my mind, that's what I want. I want what he has. I want the strength that he has. I want the faith that he has. Because I had been going through these last couple of years of my life, putting on all these kind of different masks of being a tough person, not backing down from anyone, being a class clown. All those different masks, I had put those on to protect myself. But I knew at that moment I wanted to be what he had. I wanted to be what he was and what he had. But I didn't really know what it was. So, without my mum and dad's permission, I went to this youth club one night, and I was like, I need to ask him. I need to ask him why he did what he did. So I went to that youth club and I said, brother, why did you step in for that woman? You could have, you didn't even know her, you could have been killed yourself. And he said, Nicola, it's exactly what Jesus did for each and every one of us. He died on the cross for each and every one of us. And if you're the only person on the face of this earth, he would have died on the cross for you because he loves you. And now I'd never heard those words before, that someone could love me just for me, without having to put on those masks, without having to do something for a person. That I could just be Nicola, and I was still loved by him.
How did that help you grow in your faith? You started going to the youth group. Did you start to pray? What changed in your life?
From there on, I kept going to this youth club, because if someone was willing to die on the cross for me because he loved me, then I had to be willing to get to know this person and to figure out who he was and what he was all about. So I kept going to this club, and I kept asking these different questions, like, why do we have 10 commandments? All these different things, trying to understand who Jesus actually was. And it was in a moment of adoration in front of the Blessed Sacrament in our chapel, where Jesus was just, he spoke to my heart, and he was like, I want you to be happy. There's more to life than what you're going through. And I think going to that youth club and spending that 10 minutes in adoration every week, really just sitting there and being honest with Jesus and being like, I've had a really bad day today, I had to dodge 4 bullets coming home from school, or these different things. It actually helped me to get to know him and to see that he was working in my life, because there's been many times where I've been close to death, and by the grace of God that I'm still here today. So I definitely think that going to this youth club and really sitting in front of Jesus in adoration really helped me to go deeper.
Okay, Nicola, how old were you more or less when you started going to this group? And what kind of things did you do there?
Yeah, so when I started going to this youth club, I think I was about maybe 13 going on 14 at the time. And what we basically would do is all the teens would come in, and we'd go up upstairs to our lesson room, and the friars would give a lesson on a teaching on the catechism, or like give us a Bible story, or we just asked simple questions, like the questions we had in our mind about the faith and what the church teached, and they would answer those questions. And then we'd go downstairs and like we'd have a time of prayer, where instead of asking the friars our questions, we could ask Jesus himself and ask him to like reveal it to us in our hearts, and just to be able to sit there in front of him for about 10 minutes, and then afterwards we would just go out and play some soccer and have some food. So it was just a nice kind of way to kind of be off the streets and have a nice place to come and be around good people. So I stayed doing that club through the whole rest of my kind of years, from 13 till I was about 20. And during that time as well, I started to go to U2000, and being able to go to a place where everyone kind of thought the same as you, where everyone accepted you, because at this stage I had kind of really developed my relationship with the Lord and really gone deeper, and I think that was just the next step. But again, I would go home from after U2000 and I'd be like, I'm still in this like situation. But what I realized was that, most of the time our situations don't change. Like, I still lived in the same area. Like, I still woke up to hearing gunshots in the morning. I still went to sleep to hearing gunshots at night. Like, not a lot changed, but having a relationship with Jesus and kind of getting to know him deeper, it really changed me. And I was able to cope with those situations that I was in better, and that I knew that I wasn't like in it on my own, that he was right there next to me going through the exact same thing with me. So yeah, I think I had a real experience at U2000 where I could go deeper again, and our journeys are constantly going deeper. So
could you explain a little what is Youth 2000 and how you first found out about it?
So U2000 is a organization that runs retreats for people who are 16 to 35, and it's a Catholic retreat where you can go to a place over the weekend, and there's different talks. Maybe there's one on Mary, one on the Eucharist. There's time for prayer, and there's time for community, where you can kind of just go into different groups and chat and have a good time. And the one thing that really struck me about U2000 is when they have their healing night.
What's that? What is a healing night? What happens there?
The priest would come around with the Blessed Sacrament and give an individual healing to the person, so they'd give him a blessing. And right after that, the thought in my head like came to my head, and it was like, if Jesus could forgive those people who put him to death, then I can forgive those people who have taken that family friend from me. And I really just got a massive grace to be able to forgive them in that moment. It was a very powerful moment for me. And I think once I started to forgive them, then it was a more freeing moment for me. Because I think for us, we think that like when we hold on to unforgiveness, it's like hurts the other person. But it's really like drinking poison and having the other, like thinking the other person's gonna like be killed. It's not gonna happen. You're killing yourself, really. So yeah, in that time, I was just kind of like, I was able to forgive, and I was able to kind of be more free. And I just, thank the Lord for that grace, because I think that's really what kind of helped me to move further in my journey with him.
Okay, so what happened after that powerful moment of healing? How did your family react when you went back home? Since they weren't practicing Catholics, did they accept it, or was it a battle in the house? Did your friends see a change in you?
Yeah, so coming back from that U2000, things were a little bit different. My family definitely saw a change in me. They didn't necessarily understand it though. They were still kind of like, why are you extra happy, or, why is this not affecting you anymore? but again, they're on their own journey, so I think one day they will come and go deeper. But being able to come back to the youth club and really showing the kids, the younger kids, that there is hope, and that this place that we've been placed in isn't all that bad, and that we can be the change that needs to happen here, and we can be that positive role models for the people around us and our own families as well. And in school it was a bit different as well. A lot of my friends didn't understand the faith, but a few of them were very accepting. A few of them kind of got into the faith themselves as well, and they started to ask those questions. It was very nice. And from there, I'm 26 now, and I had the amazing opportunity to kind of really understand more about the faith going to Holy Family Mission. And that's a formation house for young people here in Ireland. And it's really a place where you can go. It's residential, and you learn about the catechism, you do Bible studies, you go on mission. So it's really kind of been able to put everything that I've learned through my journey with the Lord into action.
Could you tell us about a grace you have received or an experience you have had with the Eucharist?
Yeah, I think just being able to sit in front of the Lord and knowing that I didn't have to be anyone else. I think that was a very massive grace for me, because again, we could go through our lives putting on all these different masks, and for me it was I struggled with being accepted and thought that the only way to be loved is to do things for other people, and now those things might not even have been good things. It's just to be able to sit there and to know that I don't have to put up a front. That was really helpful and really powerful as well.
What's your relationship like with our Blessed Mother?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a person who wouldn't necessarily at first had a strong relationship with our Blessed Mother, because I don't have the best relationship with my own mother, so I kind of related to them together. And but one brother told me that when we pray the rosary, it's like giving Our Lady a flower, and I thought that was so cool. So yeah, and knowing that Our Lady was right there with Jesus at the foot of the cross showed me how strong she was. So it helped me to kind of want to aspire to be how strong she was, because you must be very strong to be able to sit at the foot of the cross and see your own son be crucified, and to really still have that amazing thing to be able to, he gives her to us, and I just think that's the coolest thing.
Do you have a certain way of praying? Has there been anything that has helped you grow in your prayer life? Something that has strengthened you?
Yeah, so I think Lectio Divina for me has been a massive way of learning how to pray. It's basically when you take a scripture quote from the Bible and you start meditating on that, and you use your imagination as well. You can kind of imagine the scene, imagine if it's Jesus walking on water, or Peter in the boat or anything like that. It's I think making kind of the faith alive in my imagination has helped.
What would you say to young people today? Maybe to somebody who comes from the same type of background as you and is going through life with no meaning. If you had the chance to sit down in front of them, what would you say to them?
For a person who is coming from a similar background to me, I would say not to give up, that there's hope out there, and even if you can find a good priest, to ask them those questions, and to really kind of search and really figure out, and not to kind of just take things at face value, but really to want to know the answers to those questions, and to persevere in your prayer life, persevere in that everyday oh, like this is a black hole for me today. Like persevere in things, that know that things will get better. And to kind of, yeah, if you have a relationship with the Lord, that's amazing. And if you don't, to start one. Because for me, if I hadn't started that relationship with Jesus, I definitely today would be either dead or in prison. Like I would definitely see that would be my outcome. But being able to have a relationship and be able to forgive and be able to give that faith that I have received to other young people gives me such life.
Nicola, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your testimony with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Where there is life, there is hope. And where there is faith, there is also hope. That hope we must never lose. If you don't already have a relationship with the Lord, start one, just like what Nicola said. Thanks for joining us.